Today, we're going to talk about wizards. Welcome back, everyone, for another chat here about some nerdy stuff. Yes, today we're going to talk wizards, but specifically Polish wizards, and kind of the influence of wizardry in my life, and why I just find them so cool and fascinating. Let's rewind a little to my childhood, where multiple things happened kind of at the same time looking back. So not only were we going to a local Ren fair in upstate New York, Sterling Renaissance Festival, but also another thing that was really big in our lives was, of course, Disney. And one thing there was the Adventurers Club at Downtown Disney. Now, all of this was about interactive entertainment. So just that idea of immersing yourself in a theme, in a story, was really cool. Seeing the art of interactive entertainment evolve through the 90s was really neat, between Disney doing it with interactive entertainment, growing Streetmosphere and creating that, and then some of the troops from that going into the Renaissance world and creating this vibe of Ren Fair. So that is really what kind of evolved and helped spread the Ren culture, was the idea of atmosphere, Streetmosphere, immersing people in the element, all evolving in and out of theme parks. So a lot of Ren Fair people don't like to think about it that way. A Renaissance Fair is kind of just a really immersive theme park that you can role play yourself in, because obviously you can only get so far with that at a Disney park. Now, coming out of the Renaissance Festival, of course, there were influences there from Carl Ash, Giacomo the Jester, doing his juggling show, Giacomo the Jester Show, amazing stuff. And of course, the late, great Johnny Fox doing sword swallowing and magic. Just amazing influences that even at a young age was like, is that possible? Like, can a kid just play for a living? Can he perform and do this fun acting as a living? Because movies, theater is great, but there's a show, there's a movie, you have to be on set to film. How can you get that performance fix on a daily rate? Well, there it was at a Renaissance Festival, and that's where my life evolved, going into Renaissance festivals later in my adulthood. So talking about theme parks and theme park wizardry, in the late 90s, 1999, Universal built its second flagship park in Universal Orlando, Islands of Adventure, and within that were all these different worlds and lands to explore, to have adventure. So one of them was the Lost Continent, which was much more expanded before the wizarding world of Harry Potter was built. A few of the things back there that were part of Harry Potter were, of course, the Dragon Challenge, the dueling dragons before that. Across the way was the Enchanted Oak Restaurant, which of course is now the Three Broomsticks. All of it reskinned, rethemed, and of course Hagrid's motorbike was a great opportunity for them to make it really themed to the area. One thing to note about the Enchanted Oak Restaurant was outside was a small prop stage, like you'd see at a Ren Fair, and outside Merlin would perform wonders. And it was an amazing thing to contrast Poseidon's Fury, which back then was Zeus and Poseidon, and then Dueling Dragons in the Lost Continent with Mythos Restaurant. It just was an amazing, enchanted place. So all of this stuff through the 90s influenced my intrigue, if you will, for wizardry, and of course things like Sword in the Stone, Robin Hood, and all those amazing tales of fantasy, Renaissance, and medieval times. Now, talking about things like Merlin, of course, Sword in the Stone, Merlin at the Enchanted Oak, you have that as the classic trope of wizardry. You have Dumbledore, this masterful wizard who is the high knowledge of wizardry. Also, you have Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Even going into a galactic wizard, you have Yoda, Master Yoda, and even Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan. You have Master and Apprentice and the evolution of how magic should be and could be. I did say Harry Potter was later built at Islands of Adventure, and of course, Stacy and I were there when it was being built, and then even after, right after actually, when it first opened. We have some original wands from way back there. We have a green Hermione wand, which is, for those that know, no. Through that and just experiencing that, even before they had fully interactive wands, that was an inspiration, and us going to Ren Fair, all of that coming together, and we kind of did a similar thing, being influenced by Universal. But we thought, how can we do that where every kid that gets a wand gets to do magic? And that's what we did. Every child that left our wand shop could test their wand, do some magic. And not only did the kids perform magic, but the parents witnessed this miracle. For the magicians out there, it was a spirit bell, and oh my gracious, it was amazing. Bringing that to fair on a wider scale to a personal level where we could actually enjoy that magic, share the magic, and just be that first experience for some of these kids to do magic and witness magic. And we made so many memories for those kids, and there's nothing I would take back about those moments for the world. I'm going to talk more about theme parks, dragons, wizardry, all that. When you're talking about Islands of Adventure, there's a lot I have to say. It's an amazing theme park that still is kind of one of the best in my opinion. Now let's talk about those Polish wizards. Back in almost mythical times, generations ago, you had Wolf, these wise men, these magi, who would actually give counsel to some of the leaders and actually help evolve humanity and bring everyone together in peace and harmony. One other interesting thing about the Wolf is in the current day Russia, Ukraine is where you had a lot of this Slavic mythology, and in the Christianization of the western side of what is now Ukraine, kind of towards Kiev, you have the Wolf leading these resistances of this religious persecution. And it's just an interesting thread to see the oak tree being a woodworker. My grandfather was a carpenter, kind of coming through my family's history and just evolving through the Polish lineage that I come from. So the Wolf, Polish wizards, it's all very interesting layers to who I am. But again, talking about mythology, Greek mythology, mythos, Islands of Adventure, and just humans as a whole and the history with mythology, and even looking at superhero stories today. That is modern mythology that is growing and becoming part of our ethos as humans. A lot of people look to that mythology, look to the Jedi thinking of ways, and it's just an interesting way that humanity is evolving through culture. We are all part of the web of influence, influencing each other, taking what we like and building ourselves out of those experiences and creating our own masterpiece that is us. Now, talking about that web of influence, I now want to talk about a story published in 1933. What's the story, you ask? Well, in Poland, Janusz Korczak published Kajtek the Wizard. I may have butchered all of that, but it's about a boy wizard who learns he has magical powers, and he goes to school, not a wizard school, just regular school, finds out he has powers and ends up doing mischief with them, kind of like schoolboy mischief. But through that, he kind of develops this reputation as a troublemaker, to which he leaves his hometown. Through his travels, he meets a female wizard named Zosia, who teaches him to use his powers for good. And then together they overcome evil, defeat a mighty wizard, and kind of save the day. Has a lot of decent archetypes, kind of like Harry Potter, and the fact that Hermione Granger helps Harry along the way as well, as kind of this key part of wisdom and good. What I find interesting and super fascinating through this weaving of the fabric of all of this wizardry is that those Polish Wolf also had female wizards. So it wasn't just a men's group, it was male and female. So you had female Wolves also doing influence and doing their own magic. Now, if you look at that idea of influence, there's no saying that the mythology of werewolves and how they influenced the culture in Poland wasn't something that Janusz Korczak didn't take to use to write the stories of Kajtek the Wizard. And then through that, the female wizards kind of finding him and then teaching him to do good. You look at Harry Potter and Hermione Granger, a key female character who helps Harry do good and find the path of good throughout the entire story. So the fact that these all have a similar story plot is very, very interesting. And the fact that they could have influenced each other or may have not, who knows? But it is all part of the lore of wizardry as a whole. So, female wizards, we were very inclusive all the way back generations ago. The Wolf, the Polish wizards. We just want everyone to come together and do amazing magic. Now, what I find interesting about all of this is that Kajtek the Wizard is something I just recently found out about this year. The other side of that story, which is again just so fascinating and interesting to me, is that Through that, he takes his powers, moves to America, goes to Hollywood, and uses them to become a film star overnight. But through that, has to learn not to abuse those powers. And that's kind of that idea of right and wrong, good and evil, and not abusing those powers. Themes that are tropes through Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Harry Potter, and all of those amazing saga stories. Last thing I want to do here is have you listen to the dedication from Janusz himself about K-Tech the Wizard. It's kind of interesting, especially those who know me personally. So here we go.
This is a difficult book. I dedicate it to all the restless children, those who find it hard to change and improve. You have to want to change, very much and very deeply. You need to strengthen your willpower. You need to play a useful role in life. Life is strange and mysterious. Life is like an extraordinary dream. Whoever has the willpower and a strong desire to serve others, his life will be like a beautiful dream, even if the path to his goal was difficult and his thoughts were restless. Maybe one day, I will write the ending to this book. Janusz Korczak.
So there it is. Go out there and do your wizarding best. Shine your light and do good in people's lives. Bring joy and happiness to them, and we can bring everything together and get everything back on track. All right, be sure to check out all my other social medias. If you want more of these sit and talks, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you in pictures.